with the sound, with the and first of all, let me tell you that we are really, really lucky because the weather was pretty bad today in the morning, and also it was supposed to rain all day. So we're lucky that now it's sunny, and you will be able to do many beautiful postcards, and it will be easy for me to do the tour. So I see that we have 6 people so far. So let me show you the sign in Russian. Hello, friend. Hello, Mariam. Hello, Vika, Kilat. Shalom, Vera. Welcome to the tour. And let me show you in Russian. Welcome. So here's the name of the place, Kremlin in Izmailovo Kremlin. And Добро пожаловать, it means welcome in Russian. So if you want to remember the name of the place, you can take a postcard. Of course, it's also written in the title of the tour. Poster, great question. I mean, it's Russia. Moscow, it's Moscow. Moscow is the capital of Russia. So we are going to start, I guess, in a few seconds. Those of you who don't know me, let me introduce myself. My name is Tanya. I'm a professional tour guide from Moscow. I've been working as a tour guide for over 6 years. I do all types of tours. I show the highlights of the city, the most beautiful places, such as the Red Square, the Kremlin, and I also show hidden gems. On my tours, I talk about Russian history, Russian architecture, Russian design, and Russian literature. Today, I'm going to show you one of the most interesting places in Moscow, Izmailovo Kremlin, and it's actually more than just Izmailovo Kremlin because it's also the Izmailovo Market. That's what you could see in the title of the tour. At last, a tour where the sun is out. This is my third tour try for this tour. Katie, yeah, I mean, again, we are lucky today. The weather was much worse in the morning. So what am I going to show you today? What are we going to talk about? We'll walk around through this beautiful area. So I'm going to show you this Russian castle. Many people also compare it to Disneyland. I'll talk about Russian architecture, Russian traditions, Russian culture, Russian history. Of course, you'll get to see some beautiful elements of Russian design. And then we will go to the area where we have the Izmailovo Market, and I'll talk about Russian handcrafts. Those of you who just joined me, welcome. I'm really happy to see you today. We are in Moscow, those of you who don't know, and it's written in Russian, in Cyrillic, Kremlin, Kreml, Izmailovo, it's the name of the area. We are not that far from the city center by our standards, so basically it's approximately 20 minutes by subway. But by car it could take 40-50 minutes. My map is off for security reasons because these days I do many tours from home, and today it's not the smartest idea to turn your map if you're doing tours from home from Moscow. So thank you for understanding. And it's also written in Russian, welcome. So welcome to this tour, and let's go to the main entrance where we have the best place to take postcards, the best place for photos and screenshots if you like them. Again, we're really lucky that it's sunny now. I wasn't sure whether I could do this tour today because it was raining in the morning. Yesterday it was also raining, but it's a good sign that specifically for this tour, the weather is absolutely amazing. So let's start with the word Kremlin and with the name. So I'm going to the main entrance. That's why we want to actually see some beautiful buildings all around the area. As you can see, there we have hotels, and it's not a very nice area actually to come. It's not in the city center. That's why I could say it's one of the hidden gems of Moscow. And most of the people, most of the Muscovites and everyone else who comes here, they would mainly come for this area. And let me show you what I'm showing you. It's near the subway station called Partizanskaya. And let me show you how it used to look like just in the 70s. These hotels that we can see at the moment, they were built in the late 70s before the Olympics in Moscow in 1980. So in terms of the hotels, they're more like Soviet-style hotels. They're pretty cheap compared to the ones that are in the city center. You can get a room for $40, $50. But again, you will have this kind of like Soviet atmosphere. Let me turn around to this beautiful area. And as you can see, there are many, many people who take photos around this area, many photo shoots. And actually, when we had in-person tours in Moscow, I also worked as a photographer. So I also did like photo tours, and this was one of the main areas for my photo tours. So the word Kremlin, what does it mean? Kremlin means a fortress, it's a fortification. And when we say the Kremlin, we generally mean the one that is the city center, the Red Square. And yesterday I added a new tour, the best of Moscow, where I'm going to talk about the Kremlin, the number one. But since it means the fortress, fortification, so all around Russia, we have other Kremlins that were built basically for the same reason, for the protection of the cities in the medieval times. But they lost its function around the 18th century. So now we have some Kremlins like the one in Moscow, the one that I've already mentioned. Also, you can go to other cities like Tula, Zarais, Kolomna, and you will be able to find other Kremlins. Let me show you one of the examples. The one that I'm showing you is in Tula, and it's pretty similar to the Kremlin in Moscow. What is so special about this place, Fraser? Yes, I think it really looks beautiful. It looks very colorful, and in this way it is very special. So what is this place today? Today it's more like an entertainment center. That's why we will see many kids around, photo shoots, even weddings if we are lucky, because as you can imagine, I mean, it's not the first virtual tour. It's not also the first time that I come here, and when we had tourists in Moscow, I used to come here pretty often, and we would always have weddings or photo shoots, and we will see some today. Yeah, we saw a bride and a bride yesterday. Yeah, I think it's a sign. Maybe for me, who knows, or maybe for my boyfriend. So I'm kidding. Well, there is something really special about this design and about this architecture. It represents traditional Russian design, traditional Russian architecture, and indeed, as Andrew wrote us, it is very colorful. And this is one of the elements, this is one of the signs of traditional Russian design, of the traditional Russian architecture. So today we are going to talk about the elements of Russian design, of what it makes it Russian. And yes, Vicky, as also I said in the beginning of the tour, many tourists compare it to Disneyland. Many say it's a Russian Disneyland. I would say it's more like a Russian fairy tale. And also many Russians compare it to a fairy tale. And it is more like a Russian fairy tale because, again, it's more about traditional Russian design, traditional Russian style. But I mean, if you have some other ideas, feel free to share it with me. It's very interesting. Often I ask tourists whether it's new or old, and sometimes it is surprising. Actually, pretty often it might be surprising because it is pretty new. But I hope you're not disappointed, and you shouldn't be, because it represents Russian style from the 17th century that actually you will not easily find in Moscow. Oh, look, there is a very interesting photo shoot. I think like it's a TikTok video or something like that. Very interesting. I mean, that is definitely one of the highlights of this tour for me. Something really interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's very impressive. So back then, in the 14th and 17th centuries, we had this kind of czar's palaces. They were known in Russia as Gosudarev Dvor. So I'm going to share another image with you so you will get an idea of how they used to look like. So this is the one that we had in Kolomenskaya. They're going to, oh, thank you very much. Yeah, people are walking around, so they would let me, I don't know, we can take a look at what's going to happen. Maybe it's a good idea also for someone else's TikTok. And meanwhile, I'm going to tell you more about design and about the architecture. So in the 14th and the 17th century, we had this kind of Tsarist palaces. As you can see with the picture, they're mainly wooden, and wood is not a very practical material. So we don't actually have anything that would come from that period, from the 17th century. Another big reason is because after Peter the Great came into power, he changed everything towards the European direction. Yeah, I think she's amazing. She's great. Someone let the imagination, creativity run wild. Can you someone tell me how to say these postcards of Tanya's? I think there is a feature. I'm not like there is a feature, and once you join it, it's pretty easy to see it. So the idea, they were inspired, Izmailovo Kremlin, even though it's new, it was built 15 years ago, but it was inspired by traditional palaces, by Russian design, Russian architecture that again, today you will hardly find in Russia, you will hardly find in Moscow. And I will repeat, one reason behind it is just the material. Another reason is because the trends changed. And in the 17th century, we had a Russian Baroque. Then with Peter the Great, he moved the capital to St. Petersburg. So it was more European. It was more inspired by a European culture, European design. And that's why for 200 years, it wasn't about Russian. It wasn't about traditional Russian design, only till the end of the 19th century. I'm going to show you one part of this area. It's a flea market, and this flea market is actually all around. Oh, you can see there are people who are also dressed like, you know, in the traditional Russian costumes. This is also one of the things about this area, that anytime you come here, you can see some installations, some celebrations. So this area has three parts, as I said in the beginning of the tour. One of them, it's more like an entertainment center that I'm going to show you in a few minutes. All around there is also the flea market, and as you can imagine, the flea market is open only on the weekends. And normally it's actually over around this time, so you see it's closing. I do that, and normally I do this tour early, but it's much more difficult for Americans and Canadians to join this tour. That's why I decided to do it at 5 p.m., to start at 5 p.m. Moscow time, so more people will be able to join us. But good that they decided to stay, so we will be able to see. Let me see your comments. I don't think we can. Okay, so there is some questions about the. So thank you very much for your help. It's really great to see this community, this support, helping each other, traditional design maintained. Yes, this place is all about traditional Russian design. I wouldn't say that it's maintained everywhere. Here we can see the promotion of master classes and workshops. So these master classes and workshops will just show you, like, you can create your own Russian doll. I think it's absolutely amazing. It's one of the good things to do if you decide to come to Russia. And actually, you don't need to come to Russia for that. The voice, I don't know what they're doing. Let's take a look at a huge Russian doll, and later we'll see more Russian dolls when we will join the third part of this area, when we will see the souvenirs. Isn't it big? So in Russian, we say matryoshka. but in English it can be called babushka, nesting doll, Russian doll. Irina, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So yeah, the questions about tips. First of all, I would like to thank Vika, Fraser, everyone who is contributing, because it means a lot. This way I can do more tours and I can certainly prepare more tours for you. And also Heygo can add more features as what I showed you. We can now zoom in, zoom out. This is absolutely amazing, and I can share photos with you. So if you enjoy this experience, feel free to leave the donations. It is kind of complicated with this whole story with my Russian cards being blocked, but as many of you already know, I'm also an Israeli, so this why it's kind of easier for me to be able to receive tips, even if it's kind of complicated. But in any ways, don't worry, I'm really grateful for your support and for your appreciation of my work. So this is the area which is considered as the entertainment center. First of all, I would like to go upstairs. So from there you can take some postcards. We will continue this story about the design, and then we will walk around the area, and I will tell you about Russian food, about some interesting museums in this area. Actually, I want to tell you that normally this entrance is closed, and some of you probably joined me last year. So last year I wasn't able to go upstairs. Maybe it was due to the coronavirus. I don't know for sure, because they don't provide any information about it, but the entrance was blocked, so I couldn't go upstairs. But from upstairs we can see that there are also really nice views. So I will go upstairs, I will stop, and then I will read your comments, because I can see that there are already quite a few in the chat. And yes, it's a great way. It's a great place for pictures. So let's start from there. Had a hard time finding, but just click exit. So again, thank you, helping each other open the photo. It's more about the postcards. Want to tip? There should be a tip button. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everyone. Andrew, also thank you very much for the contribution. When was it built? So Fraser, very good question. Dalia, no, there won't be any map. So map was turned off on all of my tours, because I do many tours from home, as I said in the beginning of the tour. And today it's not really safe for me, because I'm still in Moscow. So we decided with Heygo, so it would be better for me to do tours. But if you want to know the area, if you want to know the place, the title is, well, you can just read the title, Izmailovo Kremlin, Izmailovo Market, and, well, you can have the name. So the place, believe it or not, but it's new. As I said, originally it was built in 2000, but shortly after it was burned down, and it was rebuilt in 2007. So one of the parts that survived from the original is this church. It's called St. Nicholas Cathedral, and it's the tallest wooden church in Russia, 46 meters. It's quite amazing. Let me go up so we can actually have some better views. All around this place is about Russian design, Russian culture, Russian ornaments, and the national animal that he was also the mascot during the Olympics. Bear, we love bears. We will see some other bears during this tour. And normally this place is closed, but let's just take a look. So that's where they also have some master classes, some events for kids, some activities. Again, this is kind of private, like you need to organize it, but more or less, I mean, we can see some of the things that are happening here. Been a stall full of Russian dolls of sizes last year. Yeah, it's just another area. We will get there. It's at the end of the tour. I mean, today I mean, it's great to see, Andrea, that you decided to join this tour again. And maybe you can see some changes. One of them is I have a better camera now, and I'm really happy about it because I can see that the quality is much, much better than the previous year. And then now I spend more time on postcards because I think this place is absolutely stunning. Sue is asking me a good question. It is a church, it functions. So I mentioned that there are many weddings in this area. So that's to where married couples go. And one of the traditions that we had in Tsar's palaces, and as I said before, this area was inspired by Tsar's palaces, was to have a cathedral, was to have a church, to build it as the first building in the area. So that's why it was important. Again, it wasn't built as Tsar's palace, as I will just repeat that. It's a new structure, and it was built in 2007. And actually, the founder of the Izmailovo Kremlin shared the story that he kind of saw it in his dreams. He decided to open it. He decided to open a place that would be inspired by Russian design, by Russian culture. Let's go downstairs. Actually, I know I'm no longer able to go upstairs. So as you can see, well, I don't know, for some reason here the entrance is closed, but we will see some other beautiful elements of this place, of this area. It seems as Russia is embracing its pre-Soviet traditional culture. Fraser, yes and no, it's kind of complicated with Russia. I would say we are embracing everything. And also with this place, like, it is about a traditional Russian culture. It is about traditional Russian design, but at the same time, like, you have Lenin, you have like a cafe that is inspired by Soviet culture. So often I say on my tours that Russia is a lot about, in Moscow in particular, Moscow is all about contrasts, and it is also mix. I would say that the best way to explain it, it's kind of like a Russian salad. Russian salad called olivier. In English, it's known as a Russian salad. In Russian, it's known as olivier. Basically, if you look at it, you'll just Google it, you'll see it's kind of like a mix of everything and then tons of mayonnaise. So that's pretty much what we do in Russia. We just mix everything we have. So you have like Soviet traditions, pre-revolutionary traditions, the nobility, and often actually what is also important to mention, and I talked about it on the Victory Day, that often people don't even know much about these traditions. Like, they would think, oh, this is a traditional Russian culture, but it's not. And actually what we see, again, it's not that traditional. Of course, it was inspired. That's why I think this place is really special. At the same time, today we will learn that many handcrafts were created in the 19th century, and they were presented as the traditional Russian design. So let me stop here. I'll just see so many different layers of history. Of course, John, that's why I have so many tours. Like on the previous tours last year, sometimes it was a bit challenging for me to answer questions, because with Russia, one question could just turn into the second tour. And now I keep like referring to other tourists because it is just easier. Maybe have this fire postcard on the church. I will go back to the church and in just a few minutes, and then we'll be able to take postcards. I hope it's fine with you. Let me just show you the wedding palace. That's where many couples get married, and two of my friends, they actually got married right here. So that's why from time to time we see couples. That's why we also have church in this area. And on the other side, we have the Ministry of Joy. And this is not a real ministry. But again, this area, everything around this area is about entertainment. Interestingly, that we also have English signs. all around. I will show you some other signs. Now I would like to show you one of the main elements of Russian design, arches. So everywhere, anywhere we look at, we can see many, many, many arches. And they kind of remind of also traditional Russian headdress. So in architecture, they're known as zakruma, but as a traditional Russian headdress, it's called kokoshnik. So take a look. I hope you can see, maybe you've seen it somewhere. It's also one of the most popular Russian souvenirs. Oh, it starts raining. Well, hopefully we will be able to finish the tour before it will get worse. So here we can see some other signs of what kind of things you have in this area. They have many museums, but of course it's all about entertainment. It's not really that much of about history. This is a great area to come with your family for weekend, and often when the weather is better. I mean, today we don't see that many people, I believe, because again the weather wasn't good, and the forecast says that it's supposed to rain all day. Well, it's easy for us to walk around actually, but so let me show you the Museum of Vodka. The museum has over 1,000 types of vodka. So it's written here in English, and they also talk about the history of vodka. There is some history, but I would like, and you can see that the design, all of the decorations, they also kind of like in the traditional Russian style. But I would like to show you just an interesting poster that they have at the entrance. It's written C365. What do you think it could be? Next to the Vodka Museum. And all around here, we can see also these wooden decorations, beautiful chairs. So 365, it means like поводов. Повод, it's like an excuse or a reason to drink. Exactly, Dalia. It means that like in Russia, nobody is an alcoholic, of course not. People are more like social drinkers. So it means that every day there is a good reason to celebrate. There is an anniversary of something. So for instance, the birthday of Cleopatra, the cultural day in Japan, anything. Like you can just celebrate this tour, you can celebrate anything you want. So it is. Vodka, yeah, there is one of the explanations that you can find that vodka means little water, because in Slavic languages, originally vodka is actually from Poland. It's a different story. I also actually have a tour about vodka. Haven't done it, I think, in 6 months. So if you're interested in this part of our culture, you can subscribe and then you can join this tour. What we can see also with Russian design, many floral elements, many animalistic elements, yes, many elements. And this is something that is really, really typical for Russian design. Yesterday, some of you probably joined my tour around the Cathedral of the Christ the Savior. So this building is from the beginning of the 20th century, and it represents pseudo-Russian style. I guess you can see some resemblance. This is quite interesting. So at the end of the 19th century, we had some kind of the revival of the traditional Russian design, of Russian culture. It was in architecture, because that at that time we had two styles, pseudo-Russian and neo-Russian. It was also the time when in the beginning of the 20th century we had Russian seasons, meaning the Russian seasons in Paris. And that was the time when Russian culture, like traditional Russian handcrafts, were presented. And all around that time was their revival of everything traditionally Russian. And you're right that we went back to something like Russian, traditionally Russian, after the Soviet Union. There was also a trend in the last, I would say, 10 years. People had more and more interest in other regions in Russian culture, but I would say it's all around the Soviet Union, you would see it. And also you would see more interest actually in some other regions, like in Russia, we have nearly 200 ethnicities. So in other regions, people would be also interested. So it was all around. So we stopped here for I think it was Vicky who asked. Yeah, Vicky who asked to stop to take a postcard, and then we will go to another area. Looks like the Firebird fairy tale. Exactly. We also had the Firebird in Russia. In Russia, it's called Zhar Ptitsa. I remember you one of the first tourists. You were drinking vodka with your friend. Oh, Dalia. Uh, no, I wasn't actually drinking. I don't drink vodka, but I think it's one of the elements of Russian culture. Like one of the ideas also behind my tours is to show Russian culture, Russian mentalities, to understand Russia and to see what makes it Russian. Let's take a look at some other drinks. So we talked about vodka. Another drink is honey beer. Honey beer, it's medavucha in Russian, in English mead. It's all around this place. It was before vodka. So you can see this, and this is glue wine, like mulled wine, which is not Russian, but still looks really nice. And they also have zbitin. This is a traditional drink based on honey. Honey is really big in Russian culture, and we have Russian pies. I had a tour about Russian food market. I haven't done this tour, I think, in over 8 months, I think, something like that. So if you're interested, you can join it. So here we have a stall with honey. Again, honey is big. I talk about it on a Russian food market tour if you're interested. But it's interesting that here we can also see these traditions. So let's leave this area. Before we'll do that, we will say goodbye to our biggest friend, Misha, Medved, Mishka, Medved, Medved in Russian, bear, or urs in French and some other languages. It's really, really cute. And here we can see traditional Russian shawl, Russian scarf from Pavlov Posad. And we can see that even this scarf, even this shawl represents traditional Russian design, traditional Russian style with this floral elements, many colors. Isn't it beautiful? It's absolutely fantastic. It's also one of the best souvenirs to get from Moscow. Is the white spire to the right another church? No, there is only one church. So this one. The white spire is like everything. The rest is more or less like the idea of the palace, and it looks, again, as the castle. It's written at the top. It's written 2003. As I said, like the whole place was finished in 2007, so basically like 15 years ago. And remember, I told you that Russian culture, Russian design, it's a mix of everything. So often when I do this tour, tourists say that, well, it looks really Asian. It is like as I said, during Peter the Great times, after Peter the Great, we were inspired by European culture, specifically France and Italy. But at the same time, like you can see that through our history, Russia was kind of a mix of cultures. It was a mix of Europe and Asia. So we are leaving this area. You can also take the postcard of this palace. Can you show the whole bear, please? Okay, we can go back to the bear. Can we go back to the bear with the flowers? Or I can see everybody loved the bear. I'm not sure I can show all of it. I will just try, so you can have a good postcard from the building of Izba. It's not Izma, it's Izmailova. Okay, Izba, I thought you know the word Izba. So we have this lady next to the bear. That's why, I'm not, I hope now it's fine to take postcards. And Izmailova, so the name derives from the area. Izmailova. His lady pushed the lady. No, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm really nice. So I hope we had enough time. and there's another bear, so we can say goodbye. So we are going to through the second area. Okay, I'll just do the last vertical shot. But the tour, I mean, more time we spent in here. I mean, we may not have enough time, and I have the second tour today. So let's just try to take as many postcards as we can. And so I won't have to cancel the second tour today. Otherwise, my phone will not survive. I have another tour at 7 today. So hopefully, again, I won't cancel it. And say if you have to, if you want, I'll be happy to see you and you can join. So the second area is the flea market. Not every seller loves me walking around with the camera, so we will just show you that this place is really, really big. It's absolutely fantastic, and in my opinion, it's more like a museum. It's certainly here you can find absolutely everything, old books, discs, Soviet. He's saying hello. He said hi. Soviet memorabilia, pasts, leaders. Okay, one guy said, just take a picture. Okay, I will work around. Actually, I mean, around this area, it wasn't easy just because people are not used to hear English. And often when people hear English, they think I'm rich. So I think, sorry, just one guy, I think you, okay. Yeah, one guy opened just my bag. So sometimes we have to keep an eye on it. So here we see that they're closing. And normally there is no one in winter. And when I do these tours, I actually just have to walk through this area. Sometimes there are people who still come here and they're absolutely devoted to it. Yeah, I mean, you can see like Soviet clothes, something from the 90s, some of them like Chinese goods, absolutely everything you can imagine. There is a lot more people in summer, and many of them, I guess, come, just kind of like to talk with each other. This was kind of the present from the Kremlin, where we had candies, Buddha, like everything you can imagine. And I believe, like even a flea market, this kind of place could be just one museum. Let me show you some paintings. So there we have the alley, the gallery, the art alley. It's called the Art Boulevard. Vera, thank you very much for the contribution. Yeah, to be honest, I've never thought of like someone approaching me, but I will have to be more careful in general. So no, we don't see that many artists all around. Of course, these are the works of Russian artists, absolutely fantastic. I guess it's kind of like inspired by Manet. But yeah, I mean, if you're interested in Russian art, I will do the second tour. Dalia, I mean, it sounds like a good idea, but if every time I have to ask my dad, I don't think I would be able to do many tours, because I mean, it would be too much to ask, from my dad, because we don't live together. So he would have to spend 2 hours just to come to see me. Let's take a look. These are the rugs, carpets. It's a Central Asian. Here we have an area with Central Asian carpets. This was one of the countries. Oh, here the light is not good. We had countries like Uzbekistan, Tajikistan in the Soviet Union. Now we have a very big community from Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and actually there was a tradition in the Soviet Union to have a carpet on the wall, and I remember it even in the 90s. And for now, for my generation, it's kind of like a really, really bad taste, but still these days, like, you can find people who would have the carpets. But the reason behind it is just people were really poor and they didn't really have many things for decorating. Or bring a friend with you. I mean, again, thank you very much for your advice. I mean, I'll think of it like if there's some. I offer to just my friends to join me from time to time, because many don't actually. I think many of you who join my tours, who join tours of my colleagues, know a lot more about Russia, Russian culture, and Moscow in particular than my friends. Seriously, because like when you live in your city, you think you know everything. You don't really like you go to the same places, but with even like with one tour, I guess you can learn so much. So then you can even tell my friends about Moscow. But yeah, hopefully it will be also easier because here we have to understand that people who come here, they're just so devoted to the work. Like it is more than just being a sailor. Many of them sell the oven goods, and it is absolutely impressive. Like all of this man sailing, badges, stamps. These are the often their own collections, and they would be able to talk about it for hours. And again, imagine like when it's minus 30 in Moscow. Moscow winter minus Celsius. It's really, really cold. I did some tours when, I was like freezingly cold. I immediately have to drink tea. And then there would be pretty much no one except for like 1, 2 men. And I was really impressed because who would come to this market at that time when it's so cold? So apparently, again, it was just something, for them to do that they really, really loved. So let me show you the last area. So we're going to the last area, and we have so many kids, as I said. I don't know, probably they have something like, I don't know, kind of a meeting. So this area is the Souvenirs market. That's where we will go, and that's where we are going to finish the tour before we can take a look at the area with the carpet Central Asian. And let me see your comments. Even some of my friends wonder why I spent so time with free tourists. This has been out a lot. This tour is crazy fun. Yeah, I mean, it is, I guess it is kind of addictive. And it is often, it's difficult to explain to your friends because like when you haven't done a virtual tour, probably you don't understand the beauty of it. So let me turn slowly and let's start with some interesting Russian souvenirs. If you know any Russian souvenirs, just let me know. We've already seen Matryoshka, we've already seen Russian doll. By the way, as you can imagine, this tour is always different, like as any other tour. The beauty of this tour is that it is always different, and often it represents life. Some of you who joined me last year probably know that I became friends with some of the sellers. They already know me. They're like, oh, you're the one who talked to me like last year. So it's kind of also a lot of fun. I think from here we can also take some beautiful postcards. I actually had a photo shoot with my friend in this area, so there are some pictures of me right here on these stairs because I love these colors. I love this kind of like colorful places. So that's why I think it is an amazing place for photo shoots. Remember the bear with the scarf? So here we have the scarves, and let's take a look at these colors. I think now it's good. My daughter loves the babushka dolls. I got her teapot and cake. It's far from your home. If this area is far from my home, no, actually not really, because this is the area where I grew up. So this was the first tour that I did with Heygo. But again, like it's not far by our standards, So on food, it would take me, I guess, 35 minutes approximately, which is not that much by our standards, but still. Amy, thank you very much for the contribution. So let's take a look at some beautiful Russian dolls and talk about them. So Russian doll is actually not that old as many people might think. The first Russian doll is from 1890, so the end of the 19th century. And I even have a picture for you of the first, oh, I don't know, there's something wrong with the media, so I'm not able to attach it. I don't know, maybe after the tour, sorry, there's some. Okay, so the first one is from the end of the 19th century, and it was created by Malutin. Actually, he's the architect of the building that I showed you and the building that I showed on the tour yesterday. Today we have all these different designs, and we even have Russian dolls with like leaders with celebrities. This one is really, really big. Russian dolls with the world leaders appeared only in the 60s. We also have with some cartoon characters, like anyone you can imagine. The prices are really, really different. They depend on the artist, like they depend on the work, whether there are many details or not. Let's take a look at another place, and going to world leaders. It just really depends. Some of them I don't think would be nice to show today. So these kind of Russian dolls, from what I remember, would cost around $30, but again, the same size you can buy for $1,000. You can, like, I guess these ones are cheaper. Like somehow I actually became even an expert. Like I can take a look and I can see whether it's a famous artist or not. Often at the bottom you have the names. So let me see. For me, my real souvenir of Moscow, it's always watch. James, I guess. Please show the leader's postcard thoroughly. Okay, I wasn't showing, because on my tours yesterday I had many comments not to be political. And today, especially with me doing tours from Russia, it's a bit challenging. Shane, yes, Faberge X. Yeah. I have some other tours that would be like not, let's say, more historical than political, because everyone has her own opinion. I used to say, like, we also have Putin and Trump together, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, we still have Trump, but I guess it's it's with a big discount. I guess they got Trump, well, when he was in power during the elections. Now apparently no one is buying it, and obviously these days, if some of you don't know, we don't have souvenirs, or sorry, we don't have tourists. Souvenirs, I just wanted to show you another beautiful place with Zhostova Souvenirs. Zhostova, it's one of the villages in Russia with the traditional handcrafts, and they're known for dishware and specifically for this beautiful spoon. Здравствуйте. So let's take a look. We actually had one fashion designer who was inspired by this style, and he had many fashion collections like inspired by Zhostova. Yes, Sam, if you have a picture of your Russian doll, you can share it with us. I wanted to see the one with our former prime minister. Let me show you these costumes. Oh, they're already closing, so it's actually good timing. As you can see, I mean, this tour is not easy for me to do for Americans and Canadians, because I mean, in winter, it's already dark after 2-3 p.m. and they're already closing, and I can do this tour only on the weekend. Otherwise, there is not much to see. So here we can see some traditional clothes for peasants, which is quite interesting also to take a look at. It's quite detailed with troika. Again, they're all different. All around we can see different designs, different styles. So it depends. Before we'll finish the tour, I want to show you one photo. from the movie by Luc Besson, Anna. It's about a Russian girl who is a model, but also is here you can see the price, 1,000, which is actually not much. They didn't increase the prices, so we are lucky to see there's a price. Now this is really beautiful, very detailed. The good thing about the market, like for those who like to bargain, that you can bargain. We have also keychains. Here it's easy, but at the same time the quality is good, and the quality can be even better than in the city center. In the city center it's normally 5 times the price, can be more expensive. Let's take a look at Fabergé X. Those of you who don't know, Fabergé X became known, we also have them here, as the present for Easter. So we have this tradition to color eggs for Easter, but this was produced by the Carl Fabergé factory. And Russian Tsars Alexander III and Nicholas II gave these eggs as a present to his family. One more thing I want to show you, these lacquer boxes. We have 4 main schools, but the most famous one is Palech. And before the revolution, they would have icons on the cover, but of course after the revolution there was no religion. As Lenin said, the religion is the opium of the masses, so they changed it to Russian fairy tales, and actually I love it. And again, like with this tour, what I love is that we can see these connections between the design, between the first part, then we can see these connections with Russian fairy tales. And remember what I told you in the beginning of the tour, that the first area indeed looks like a Russian fairy tale for me. Thank you very much for your comments. I hope I was able. Let's also take a look. So here we have some Soviet badges. This is going back, and so many, like with Lenin, also the May. And remember what I told you also, that it's a mix of everything. So we have like traditional Russian design. We also have something from the Soviet Union for the victory, everything. And this character, this is Cheburashka. It's something between monkey and a bear. Спасибо большое. Yeah, so the lady just said that they're all original. They're from Soviet times. So here everything, it depends whether it's a regional one or not, who is the artist. And many sellers here, they know the artists themselves. So that's why it's just such an amazing place to come. Many of them also speak several languages. As you can see, I could work here for hours to show you so many beautiful things. And then let's take a look also at St. Basil's Cathedral. As already mentioned, yesterday I added the tour The Best of Moscow at Night, where I'm going to show you St. Basil's Cathedral at night, one of the most beautiful cathedrals in Moscow and in the world. So if you want to see it, I will be happy to show. And this really, actually, it's a really small cup. I love Moscow. So there's some more. This is not actually the way St. Basil's Cathedral looks, but this is just the image of the blue one. So if so he decided to play for us. This is the song Kalinka. No, it's not Kalinka. No, she said it's Kalinka. It's just a little bit of. And they have another one, Katyusha. Katyusha is Сколько они стоят?
Да, вот смотрите, вот эти 500, а вот эти
более
сложные рисунки, да, здесь это все художники рисуют.
She says this is all handmade. Сколько она стоит? It's actually, I have to say, it's really cheap, because I remember it was $20 and now it's less than $10. So now it's certainly a very good, like, can you imagine, less than $10? I mean, it doesn't mean that everything is cheap, but it's just because, спасибо большое. It's just because, I mean, we don't have tourists in here, so apparently everything is, and if you love football, if you love soccer, I mean, I'm not sure I can tell you all of them. Apparently, this is messy or somehow. So, thank you very much for joining me today. And it starts raining, so now I guess it's the perfect time for us to finish the tour. So, this is Grandpa Frost, Russian Santa Claus, Russian Ded Moroz. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. I'll be happy to answer. And if you enjoy this tour, you can make a donation, a contribution. So this way, I'll be able to do more tours for you. And I'm working hard to also prepare new interesting tours for you, lectures, live tours. And I really, really appreciate your support. Also, if you enjoy this tour, you can write a review. This will help me to promote this tours, and more people will be able to see the other side of Moscow and the beauty. Yeah, it's already raining, so again we are very, very lucky because it was I think very, very good timing. So if there are no questions, then and yeah, everyone is leaving, so again very, very good timing. So thank you very much, Shane, Alex, Casey, Joy. Thank you very much for the contributions. If it's not going to rain, I'll do another tour. Oh, let's take a look at some dolls. I'll do another tour tonight, and I added some other tours. I also have some new tours, so I will be more than happy to see all of you on my tour. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful day. And I wish you a great, great week. And again, we'll be more than happy to see you again. If you had some beautiful postcards, by the way, had many beautiful postcards, you can share them with us on Heygo Facebook group, so we can all see them. Russian snowman. Yeah, this is so much. I keep spending a lot of time in here because just so many beautiful things to explore. Sam, also, thanks for sharing the link to my tour. I think now it's a good time for me to finish the tour and to save battery for the next one. So, thank you very much again. Have a wonderful day. From Tanya, with love. All the best. Пока-пока.